Back on This Week in Football presented by Geico. Time to go in the trenches and examine a throwback who is dominating the ground game during a time when the old school running back is seemingly forgotten. Adrian Peterson just doing it again. Leading the NFL in rushes, leading the NFL in yards, leading the NFL in rushing touchdowns. He continues to be an absolute horse. Ross, how do you put into words what we see from Adrian Peterson during a time when we just don't see this from any running backs anymore?
I mean, he's just a physical freak. I mean, this is the type of rare guy that probably could have gone right from high school to the NFL. You see what he did as a freshman in Oklahoma. He was a legitimate Heisman Trophy candidate. He was unbelievable as a freshman at the highest level of college football. He's one of those next level, next breed type athletes, kind of like Calvin Johnson. You know, this is what I envision running backs looking like in 20, 25 years. They should all be like Adrian Peterson, just like more and more wide receivers will look like Calvin Johnson 20 to 25 years from now. He is ahead of his time.
And we've seen quarterbacks and the way they've developed athletically over the years. Howard, how about, with Adrian Peterson, what he's been able to do as a workhorse, which, we all know is so rare these days. Is that something that can be duplicated right now by other backs and should be by teams? Or is this just, no, what Ross is saying, he's a physical freak. That's the only reason he's even capable of this.
Well, he's a great player. Hands down, one of probably the best, maybe might go down one of the best in history. But you got to also think about this. It's more about who he's playing with and who he's playing for. He's with Minnesota. The quarterback situation is not that great, which makes him the focus of the entire offense, which makes it easier. And Ross will tell you, it's much easier to run block than it is to pass block. Offensive linemen love to run block. It makes it, pushing the guy out of the way, going forward, helps them out a lot. That makes Adrian Peterson's job even easier. Now he gets to study run blocks over and over, and he never has to leave the field. If they happen to throw the ball, he can be in them passing downs.
Let's take a look at some of his career numbers, guys, because they are incredible. This past weekend, he went over 10,000 yards for his career, most rushing yards since he entered the NFL, third fewest games all time to reach that. He has 5 games with 200 or more yards, tied with Tiki Barber for the second most all time. Only O.J. Simpson has more. And here's the thing, too. He's facing, this past weekend, 35 rushes, 24 of those rushes, he's facing 8 in the box. He's still getting 6.1 yards a carry in those situations. I want to touch on something Howard just said, Ross. He hasn't had a quarterback. He hasn't had a lot of weapons around him. They don't have the best offensive line. So does it make what he's doing all that much more impressive?
Well, I think, first of all, the offensive line is better than people realize. By the way, how about the Tiki Barber reference?
I know.
I can't believe Tiki's tied with Adrian Peterson for anything. But anyway, I digress.
Hey, he's a TWIF alum, by the way, Tiki Barber.
I know. No, but here's the thing I would say. Keep in mind, the only year that the Vikings have had when Adrian Peterson's been there that they were really good is when Favre was there and they were throwing the ball all over the place, in addition to Adrian Peterson. Sometimes I think those 8- and 9-man fronts actually help a running back, especially if you've got his breakaway speed, because you can still let the last guy go and block the front side of the play. And because everybody's up there, if you get past that second level of the defense, you're gone. He gets more 40, 50, 60-yard runs as a result. Some teams, when they see those 8- or 9-man fronts, and they get stuffed on a play or two, they just stop running. The Vikings, they don't really have a choice. So they're like, we're running.
We're going to keep going, too.
He'll get 1, he'll get 3, then boom, he's out the gate for 65.
Howard, why have we seen such a decline in the workhorse running back in the NFL?
Well, there's 2 things. Specialization's number 1. Now that you have the guys who are the big pounders, who are the, basically your short yardage and goal line guys, they're not going to break away. All they're there for is to get to 2 or 3 yards in the cloud of dust. Then you have the guy who's basically the receiver out of the backfield. He's a third down back. And then you have the other guy who's basically supposedly your every down back. So you have 2 backs in some systems, sometimes 3 backs. And then the premium of quarterback is so high right now that every team's looking for a quarterback and looking for a great one. You do not want to take the ball out of the quarterback's hands, and you want to score down the field as quickly as possible and not grind it out.
I think a lot of it's injuries, too. I don't know that there's an explanation for it, but it just seems like it's so hard for running backs to stay healthy if you're giving them 20-plus touches week in and week out. Everybody is trying to limit the touches for the running backs now. But the other thing is, Ryan, you talk to people around the league, it's easier to move the football through the air. It's just the way the rules are designed now, with the spread offenses, spreading them out, with the illegal contact. It's just easier to move. I mean, think about Week 12 for a second, right? The New York Giants, the Denver Broncos, the Minnesota Vikings, they all rush for well over 200 yards The Giants and the Broncos both lost. The Vikings tied. It doesn't benefit you. I mean, the Redskins are the #1 rushing team in the NFL.
Right.
The Redskins, this just in, they stink.
Right.
Right? So it's just, it doesn't provide as much value as I think people like Howard and I want it to or it used to when we were playing.